functional.
Technology and
make
other
things.
things.
Yeah.
I think it's a reference to Shakespeare and hold the mirror, as it were. It's like the mirror of onto humanity, and to look at it and reflect upon ourselves.
Oh yeah, right.
Black being the dark side of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just uses technology as like the messenger in a way, or like the conduit, whatever. It's good. It's on Netflix. Watch it.
Yeah,
Check it out.
Netflix got the rights to it, and the third season Netflix funded, and they had more money and stuff for it, I guess.
Just try to get past the first episode of season 1. I promise.
Season 1? If you have the first episode of season 1...
It's the worst one.
Woo.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
That one is...
Like, let's just... the producers were like, let's just dive right into it. Let's just get our hands dirty. Let's waste no time.
Macabre. That is a good descriptor for that.
Macabre.
All right.
Next up, we've got the Cherry MX silent switches, which were previously exclusive to our buddies at Corsair with their Strafe line of keyboards. They are now worldwide available, or they will be, once other keyboard manufacturers start using them in their boards. This is cool because up until this point, like I said, you had to have a Strafe keyboard if you wanted to take advantage of these pretty much zero noise, it's not zero noise, but very low noise oriented switches. And the silent switches are going to be offered in 2 different colored stems. You're going to get red and black. And the red and black stems, they're pretty much identical. The main difference is the actuation force. So you're going to have 60 newtons on the black, 45 on the red. So the blacks are going to require a little bit more resistance. They're going to have a little bit more resistance to them. Some people really like that. But other than that, there's still going to be 2 millimeters actuation point. And they're going to be linear, so there's not going to be a tactile bump on either of them. Very similar to their regular red and black switch types. And...
I want a Fig Newton now.
Ooh. Tasty. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I had. I was kind of just curious, like, which keyboard have you had a chance to try out the silent switches? I've had the speed switches, but not the silence.
Yeah, the speeds I've been kind of using because I have that the rapid fire connected to the streaming system. The silence I've only tried in passing, like at events when they've had them on display.
When there's like blaring music anyway, like you can't even tell how silent they are.
So I mean, I guess it depends. For, I don't know, people who have roommates or college students maybe living in a dorm or that kind of thing, and you really like mechanical switches, but you know you're actually nice to your roommates and you don't want to keep them up.
Click the shit. No, it's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
it's a good application.
Or an office environment or something like that.
Yeah.
If you really don't like the sound of typing and you've been in close proximity to somebody who uses the clicky clacky ones, like the what were the
blues?
Clickiest ones? Blues or greens?
Grains.
Yeah, those can drive you insane.
Yes. They are pretty, they can get obnoxious very quickly. I remember everyone loved blues when they first came out, and now everyone loves browns because they're pretty much like blues, but they are not annoyingly loud and clicky. The novelty of the clickiness wore off pretty quickly.
Quickly? No, what's next?
Let's move on to our next segment. This next segment, I don't have a lower thirds for it, because it's just very impromptu, but it's just called New Year's stuff.
New Year's
So
stuff.
we're gonna talk about New Year's stuff, Paul.
Okay.
So there's a video that I've been doing kind of recurringly every year for New Year's called What's Your New Year's Resolution? Basically referring to monitor resolution. Very funny, Kyle. And every year I take a poll to see what resolution people are gaming at on their primary monitor. And it's interesting because for the last 2 years, which are the only 2 years I've done it, we've seen a huge shift. I've seen a huge shift from 1080 to higher resolutions as those become more increasingly popular and more affordable as well. So I'm kind of delivering that link out, that poll again right now for the first time ever this year, to see what you guys think, and I'm not going to like compare it to last year's results. I'm going to have a standalone video on that on my own channel, but I thought it would just be fun for the stream to give us a glimpse as to what resolution people are gaming at currently.
Lots more ultra-wide options this year.
Yes. Well, actually, I had those options in there last year, so I'm actually hoping to see that number increase.
I didn't watch your video.
Wow. That's not
2560 by 1600?
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah. Didn't you have a monitor that was that resolution?
Yeah, I do. It's
Exactly.
just, it's not, I mean, the 16 by 10, I don't know. I feel like there's a very small group of 16 by 10 purists who are like, that's the,
Yeah.
you know, for
There are.
work or something like that.
But I think it's still interesting to see how much fewer there are going to be this year, perhaps,
You get 40 by
than
20.
the year before.
You didn't do the 4K version of 21 by 9.
What is that again?
I don't know.
Well, I never had that one in the last one, so I didn't know. Well, I guess that would be other, and I guess I'll have to split other up into maybe some other groups, some other subgroups.
It is something by 2160, but it's wider. I forget.
Like in the 5,000s, maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Well, shit. I mean, I don't even know. Like, I haven't even seen any.
I've only seen like 1 or 2 monitors at least with that resolution.
So I guess that would be the other, and I guess once that resolution becomes a little bit more popular, it'll get its own category. But for now, that's all. That's what I have to work with. So you guys go ahead and vote on that. Paul and I are going to discuss something completely different, and we'll come back to that poll at the end of this segment. So the other thing I wanted to talk about here is just the discussion, I guess, of the best and worst tech that we've seen here in 2016. And like I mentioned earlier, this isn't necessarily a ranked list, because I feel, I think there's just too much controversy. Like, I haven't done enough research. Basically, I haven't done enough research on all of this. I haven't had enough time to do it to actually like make an educated list where I'm like, this is definitely, I will 100% stand behind this #1 placeholder and this #2 placeholder. So this is more just a discussion between me and Paul and you guys. Feel free to offer your suggestions in chat. What you thought was the best. Let's start with the best. What was the best tech of 2016? This doesn't have to be limited to just PC hardware. It can be mobile, it can be toy stuff, whatever the hell. I've got a couple down listed here. The first one of which is the NES Classic, which I thought I never had a chance to work with personally or play with personally, but the fact that it like broke Amazon for a short period, I think says a lot, and also being able to sell out so quickly and what was like $50 MSRP for 30 games built in, comes with a controller, and had an HDMI output so you can connect it to a modern day TV, was the hot item on everyone's Christmas wish list, I felt, this year. And that was like pretty recent. That was like a month ago. The NES Classic blew up. I would have loved one because I sold my old one years ago and I really regret it now. And a lot of those classic games that I sold along with it are included in that list of 30 titles with the NES Classic. So I thought that was a really cool move on Nintendo's part. It was officially Nintendo licensed. It was brought to fruition by Nintendo themselves. But what do you think, Paul? Did you have any, like... I have more, too, but...
Well, I was going to say the NES Classic was one of those ones that I thought was a little overhyped. I mean...
Oh, yeah?
Mainly just because especially if you own the old games, like if you own the old games but you don't have the Nintendo to play them with anymore or whatever, just there's a pretty robust collection of emulators available for it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not even wireless controllers, right? Like, you get the nostalgic bit of using the old school Nintendo controller until you realize how horrible the design is on them. And how uncomfortable they are to use for extended periods of time.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it's just a rectangle with like vaguely rounded edges, like maybe, and it's not that great.
Yeah.
I'd much rather use a wireless Xbox 360 controller or something like that.
Right.
And sit on the couch and have a much wider range of games than just the 30.
But don't you think that's like part of the nostalgia that kicks in, is like just the way the controller feels and having to kind of move it in the same kind of way that you did back in the day, where you had to deal with that D-pad and that's all you really had? Isn't that part of the experience, as opposed to like, I just feel like what if you had a HOTAS joystick and like the whole thing and you're playing like, you know, I don't know, Metroid or something.
Well, there's
on the
only a
original
certain
NES.
number of inputs the old games will even accept.
Of course.
Yes, I agree. There's some nostalgia to it and everything, and I think that's what sold so many units and made it so popular. But I think practically speaking, the nostalgia only goes so far, and I'd rather have the ability again to use a more comfortable controller that's wireless and have a lot more games that I might potentially be able to play.
I can support that idea.
Yeah, that's my thought. But the one that I would say stands out most for me, and you do have it on your list, would be the VR launches this year.
Yeah.
Which is something that we've said before. Like, you really need to kind of try the VR out yourself. It's really a difficult thing to get across in like watching YouTube videos of that kind of thing.
Right.
Just what the experience is like. Having again just kind of refreshed it this past weekend with my family. I have like my dad and my sister are very, very sensitive to getting car sick and like motion sickness and that sort of thing, and they both tried it.
No problems.
And you know, had no problems.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it says a lot to how far the technology came just in being able to do that. And I think there's a lot of future potential for it. I'm not sure how long these current headsets will last, but I think. I mean, honestly, when I bought them, half of it was like, well, I'm going to use these and try them out, and you know, hopefully make some videos with them.
Right.
But I'm also going to have them because these are the first VR devices. And
Yeah.
I see VR having a lot of impact in the future and having a lot of different uses. And, you know, much like old school Nintendo or something like that, and like early video game consoles and that kind of thing. You know, I feel like it's just a kind of a technology collector's item kind of thing. These will kind of be hopefully looked back on with some amount of fondness, or just seeing like, wow, look how far we've come, kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah. No, definitely VR, I think, was the biggest game changer this year as far as gaming and technology in general. Like, nothing has really seemed quite as innovative as VR this year, where it was a complete game changer, literally and metaphorically speaking, where I would show it to some of my friends who were not gamers traditionally or had never been gamers in their lives and could easily be in the Vive headset for 2 hours plus doing like Job Simulator or something. You know what I mean? Like, not even like one of the A-list game or anything. It was kind of interesting to see like how transformative it was.
Yeah.
But the other item that I had on this list, if we wanted to stick true to the PC hardware purism, was the GTX 1070. I felt like that has been my favorite card that's launched this year. Just in terms of price to performance, I think it's been a phenomenal launch. I think you know, NVIDIA's done a good job with the drivers so far, and you know, the 1080 of course beats it outright, but I think as far as like price to performance, the 1070 is such a huge gap over the 1060, and it's not that far behind the 1080 where it doesn't justify the extra $150 to $250 that you might pay for 1080. And there's just been a lot of good models this year. There's been a lot of good designs with the add-in board partners. There's been a good selection, and I feel like most of the fun that I've had reviewing cards that have been 1070s, I just always like am surprised by the frame rates that they're able to pull out for
really
the
good
amount
card.
of money. Yeah.
I agree with you, but I also agree with chat. Great card if you can find a good model for less than $400.
Yeah, and they are out there. They
Yeah,
are out there.
they finally.
Yes,
Took months for it to happen.
it did.
But yeah.
I agree.
Actually, I'm kind of curious how NVIDIA's going to handle whatever their next launch happens to be. I mean, I don't know how long that it's going to be until that happens, but like obviously they went with a completely different means of like positioning the cards and everything this time when they launched the 1080 and 1070.
Right.
And they
deceptive.
definitely caught a lot of flack for what they did with the Founders Edition and everything, and saying like, here's this card, $379, and then
Yeah.
like you couldn't find anything for less than like 430.
Yeah.
You know, it's just crazy. So, we'll see what they do in the future. But,
Hopefully they learned a lesson.
all right.
All right. Let's go on to our worst options here. Our worst tech of the year. Two of the items that I have listed here were mentioned in chat that I
Okay.
saw, so I guess I'm on the right track here. The first one of which that I have here is the MacBook Pro 15-inch version for 2016, which, again, a lot of these items I've never worked with personally, but I've just read the reviews and I've seen even like hardcore like Apple fans, Apple users, like just list their grievances about these items. this being a major player in that whole thing, because apparently the battery life was just very inconsistent. They did, dozens, like there have been multiple websites who have done dozens of tests testing out the battery life, and the same unit, the exact same unit, would last 18 hours for one test and then 4.5 hours for another. For just right after. So it's complete inconsistency. And I guess the standard for laptops is supposed to be a 5% variance between how long the battery lasts. 5%. You dies took an hour to it had like 8 hours of battery life. You recharge it and put it again. It should only take 5% of that. It should be within that range. So the fact that it was going from nearly 15 to 20 hours of battery life on one run, you're like, oh great, I can take this to the coffee shop and be there all day. You take it there and it lasts like 4 or 5 hours instead. Was the reason why. I forget the name of the website. I didn't write it down in my notes, but there's a website that will give its recommendation or not for all these products. It's a very well-known website. It was the first MacBook Pro in history that they did not give their recommendation to before. Basically, based on that reason alone. So that would be the first item on my list. The other one was, you want to mention one of these? You probably have something to say.
Not really. I mean, yeah, the one I would have picked was Galaxy Note 7, of course. Such a debacle with that. I don't know what the upshot is of all that. I mean, Samsung is so huge and so. I mean, they have such a wide range of products that they make. I think they will be able to come back from it. I hope that they've learned some lessons from it. But then at the same time, like, there were a bunch of people who really liked the Galaxy Note 7. Like,
yeah.
If it didn't catch fire or explode on your face like your CeeLo,
it was a great phone.
That was CeeLo's was you're totally fake, by the way. You didn't see that?
No.
CeeLo Green did the video where he's like on the it's like a surveillance video camera, and he's in a recording studio, and it like blows up in his face, and he like falls. It's ridiculous. It was actually for like a sketch they're doing or something.
Oh, okay.
But they released it anyway.
Yeah.
Point being, yeah, the Note 7. I mean, it became such an instant debacle and brunt of so many jokes and exploding, catching fire phone,
caused problems at the airport.
Yeah, like almost immediately banned across all, according to like FAA regulations, at least in the U.S. and several countries. Other countries I visited this year also have the same regulations for it. So yeah, pretty crazy that a company like Samsung could go through that much development and still come out with a product that had such a terrible point of failure across a fairly relatively substantial number of units that were affected too.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
There's like bad tech launches, and then there's like ugly tech launches.
Yeah.
That was a very ugly one.
That was
it was a
quite
whole
ugly.
other level.